New legislation has been introduced in an effort to move the Food for Peace International Food Assistance Program under the USDA. It's being co-led by U.S. Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas, who joins us now for a closer look. Senator, thank you so much for your time today. Let's start with some background on the Food for Peace program and its objective.
Well, a long time ago, 1953, a Kansas farmer stood up at a county farm bureau meeting and said, "We are producing so many crops, so many surplus. Why don't we help feed the hungry world?" And a Kansas senator named Andrew Sheppel introduced the bill, signed by President Eisenhower, a Kansan, and Bob Dole reauthorized the legislation, led that effort. The legislation created Food for Peace, and we now contribute hundreds of thousands of bushels, metric tons of excess commodities to hungry people around the world. And I'm doing my co-leads in this. I've talked about Kansas so much, I want to make sure that I give a shout out to John Hoeven, the senator from North Dakota and the chairman of the Agricultural Appropriation Subcommittee, and my colleague from Kansas, Tracy Mann, Representative Tracy Mann, representing my old congressional district in Kansas. We are interested in making sure that while this review of USAID takes place, and we've seen examples of some things that are pretty disturbing about the program's use in some instances, there is a component of USAID that is strictly related to the shipment of commodities that are grown in the United States, put on a ship and moved to countries around the world, unloaded to feed people who are hungry in those countries. And at a time in which commodity prices are low, this is an important component of a market, trying to make certain we don't lose additional opportunities to make sure that grain that we produce, you know, sometimes Kansans will tell me, why don't we just take care of ourselves? And the answer to that, if you're a farmer, is what 40% of acres do you not want to plant to wheat? Because in the United States, we produce more than we consume. And one way, certainly we believe in trade and exports, but one way that we can utilize grain that otherwise would be spoiled is to make sure it gets in the stomachs of hungry people around the globe. We're taking the Food for Peace program out of USAID in this legislation and turning it over to where it belongs and where it seems to be wanted, and where we would have more ability to make sure it's done correctly. And that's at the Department of Agriculture, USDA, and the Foreign Agriculture Service in particular. So we're on a mission to make sure that the food aid continues, and we're trying to make sure it's done in a way that is efficient and effective, and farmers can see the success they are having in feeding the world.
Yeah, such an important program. Let's talk a little bit more about why you see USDA as a better fit to administer it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, one, we know USDA better than the thought was to send it to the State Department. Maybe the State Department is going to be handling the financial aid, the financial assistance to foreign nations. That seems to me that the State Department is not the perfect place for the idea of moving Kansas or American-grown commodities onto a ship and off to the world. And the Foreign Agricultural Service has individual workers, employees around the globe in those countries, and they tell us they are prepared and set up to take over the program, and they are anxious to do so. So we have a very willing supporter at the Department of Agriculture. And we know them, and we hope and believe there's less bureaucracy with somebody who knows farmers and how this should work. So all around a benefit. And those of us who are most interested in agriculture will have more ability to influence what goes on at USDA than some other agency or an independent agency within the federal government. And we need to move it because USAID has been placed on pause for its work. And we want to make sure that we get it out of the controversy that surrounds USAID and get it to the Department of Agriculture so there's no lengthy lapse in our ability to utilize American commodities to serve hungry people around the globe.
Well, hopefully you can get that done. That is U.S. Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas. We appreciate your time, and you keep us updated.